Kate Mulefalter. Welcome to Irish Granny Helen. Welcome back, Deborah.
Hey there.
Thanks. I love the background.
Thank you.
Deborah and I have been recording a few of these this evening, and we're ending on a high note. And I was just telling her we're going to look at the life of Robin Williams. We're going to talk to Robin Williams. I can hardly wait. And I just have always thought of him as absolutely brilliant, absolutely hilarious. And then I didn't really think about him much, I was astounded when I looked into his life. And I will have made a video for everybody to watch if they want to catch up on his biography. So are you ready for this? Brace yourself.
Oh, I have been waiting for this for a long time.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah.
So, and when you suggest things to me, if you get somebody like this that I'm underestimating, you need to push me because I don't always know. I know you mentioned him a while back, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Robin Williams," Well, I apologize.
Do you remember that movie, What Dreams May Come? Have you seen that?
No.
It's a pretty accurate depiction of the afterlife. I was astounded when I saw it. And we're kind of evoking that here too.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't seen. I don't usually like it's fantasy, right?
No, it has deep, has dark, and it has redemption. It's really an intense movie.
My taste in movies usually goes towards historical reality. Like one of my very favorite movies is Sophie's Choice.
Oh, wow.
I also like The Killing Fields, the one about Cambodia.
Yeah.
I like heavy movies where the characters are faced with real life and death choices in their lives. And
that's that movie.
Yeah.
A family of 4, Robin and his wife and 2 children. They lose their children in a car accident. And then the journey they go on, it's very deep. And not to give away too much of it, but
yeah, I have to watch it.
I'll
get back to you.
Yeah,
I will watch it. It's probably available anywhere, right?
Should be. Yeah.
Is it new?
No, it's been around for a very long time. He's been gone a long time now.
Yeah, I should know that since I have it written down right in front of me. Yeah, I don't keep up. Hey, listen, I didn't even know what day it was today earlier. So, okay. So Robin Williams, his dad was a Ford executive and an Episcopalian, and his mother was a former model, and her great-grandfather was a Mississippi senator and then governor. So she was sort of hoity-toity, and she was a Christian Scientist. And he was raised Episcopalian, which comes into play later. So my first question for him, because we're going to go right to the source, right? So my first question to him is that he told somebody in an interview that he got into comedy because he was always trying to get his mother's attention with humor. Both his parents worked and he was kind of raised by a nanny. So can you talk about that?
Yeah. So Robin, tell us about your childhood, being raised by the nanny. What was that like? It was lonely. Loneliness surrounded me. A sense of melancholy from the time I was born was always present. And to fight it off, to find a sense of normalcy, comedy came into play. Because when I was making other people laugh, I could forget my own troubles.
My motto in life, I truly believe that humor is healing and therapeutic. And my motto in life is if you don't laugh, you cry. And I wonder how
kind of.
Yeah. So let's see here. Yeah, he was described as funny but quiet and shy until he got to high school, and then he got on the stage. What did that feel like? What did it feel like your first experience in front of an audience?
So tell us about that first experience in front of an audience. Oh, it was scary as hell. But then there was this excitement that came in and a sense of exhilaration. And I was hooked. I wanted more. Because when I was in that energy, I forgot about the melancholy. And all of my life, I was looking for ways to escape the melancholy. It was like death that was always following me. I could never get rid of it, but I could keep it one or two steps behind me. And that's what comedy did for me.
Am I wrong to assume that a large element of it was also the attention?
So is that true? Would you say it was about the attention? Well, of course, because the attention was the validation. Everybody needs validation for what they're bringing to the world. That's a very important part of the equation. That's the give and take of the energy.
So his family ended up moving from Chicago to Detroit, but they moved into this 40-room farmhouse on 20 acres. And I have two questions that are driving me crazy. Who vacuumed and who mowed? Because that sounds like a nightmare to me.
Yeah. So
40
tell us about that.
rooms?
Yeah, tell us about that massive mansion. It was hollow and empty. There was a lot of space to fill and just not enough joy to fill it. It was a lonely house.
You know, I don't have it written down here. I may have skipped over it accidentally. Didn't you have half brothers or brothers? Older half brother, younger half brother?
So did you have any siblings or half siblings? It says one. So you had one half brother. Yes. Okay.
And did he live with them?
So did this brother live with you? Only part of the time and not that often. Yes. It feels like his mother didn't want the kid around. So it was begrudgingly that he came.
Yeah. Was there kind of a karmic purpose to being so lonely, so young, and so perpetually?
So would you say there was a karmic purpose to your solitude and your loneliness? I believe there was, because it made me more introspective about things than I would have been otherwise. I was always looking to fill that empty gap. And in the doing, that opened up my heart to want to give more love and happiness to other people. So you might say that it shaped my character.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when all was said and done, I was happy with the way I turned out.
Did you read a lot?
Did you read a lot? He's saying specifically Treasure Island is one of the influential books in his young life. And, he liked Twain.
Me too.
So he enjoyed those books.
How old was he when he read Tom Sawyer?
So do you remember how old you were when you read Tom Sawyer? He's saying 9 and 11. So you're saying you read it twice, those ages? Yeah. So he first read it at 9, but then he read it again later.
What does he think about the fact that people now brag about never reading a book and, they take pride in that? How does he feel about that?
So what do you say about that? People who are prideful that they've not written a book. I think they're showing their ignorance.
Ooh, snap. Okay. We're going to get along. So he went to a private boys' school. I went to a private girls' school. That was a singular experience. But I was the poor student. I think he was probably one of the better off students. Am I wrong to assume that?
So in the private school situation, were you one of the, quote, wealthy students? I prefer to call it privileged.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That were privileged, yeah. And he said it was actually a good case study for, what was the name of that movie? Where he was
The Dead Poets Society.
Thank you. That's the one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I thought about that when I read the list of movies, because that movie kind of reminded me of the school that I went to. Kind of, but mine was even more strict, very strict. Nobody would be standing on any desks ever, I promise you. But I thought that the experience of going to a one gender kind of snooty school was a case study in class dynamics. I was able to separate myself out in my mind and kind of watch all this going on. And I was just gobsmacked by the lives that some of these kids lived. You know, it was really nothing I could relate to whatsoever. Of course, he was a rich boy, so and that nonsense about privileged, please. That's so funny. He had all these positions of authority and respect, and he was class president, and he was this and he was that. But the article also said that he was bullied because of his weight. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. Tell us about being bullied because of your weight. Well, you know, like a lot of kids, I ate to fill up the hole in my soul. And of course, I got fat. And I didn't like it when I was bullied. So that's when I began honing the comedy, because I found out early on you could diffuse a bully with comedy.
Yep. Yeah. I hear you. So he ended up moving to Tiburon in California. You know, I got to say, the time period that he was there was probably no better time in the world or better place to be than in that area of California in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s. When I saw that, I was jealous. It's a really nice place. And he went to this weird high school that was based on Gestalt theory. And I wonder, can he explain what that is? Because I read into it. I stopped reading about his life and I went and read about Gestalt because I didn't get it. And I finally gave up. I finally wrote on my notes, I have absolutely no idea what the heck it's about. Incomprehensible.
Okay. So what can you tell us about the Gestalt and having that as part of your schooling?
Yeah.
He says, honestly, I don't have a clue what it's about either. But you pretend you go along to get along.
Uh-huh.
It was a lot of highfalutin talk about a lot of nothing. People expanding concepts with fine words, dressing up a sow in a silk.
Yeah. I pontificating, I think, is the word he's looking for. Oh, it's hilarious. It's exactly how I felt about it when I was reading about it. And how did you feel about being voted the most likely not to succeed?
So
Seriously.
what did you think about that? Most likely not to succeed? I took it as a compliment.
So he went on to college, Claremont Men's College, to study. Did he think that co-ed schools would be too distracting? I just realized that he went to all male schools. That's interesting. But he went into political science. Really? That's just astounded to me. Why? What was the motivation there? Was he going to law school or something, maybe?
So tell us about why political science. Well, Helen, surely you know the value of having a good background in political science. It's at the underpinnings of everything in society. It's where the power is. Having that understanding is deeply important.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. The problem is people don't regard education anymore for it. They don't value it for its own worth. You don't go to college to get educated. You go to college to learn how to make money. It drives me insane. People don't value things like the humanities and the arts and literature and music and things that feed your soul as much as they feed your mind. Does he know what I mean? Did he feel that way too?
So talk about that, Robin. Do you understand what she's saying? It's a lack of curiosity about intellectual pursuits. People are very surface level these days. They think they can skim the surface and they've got everything they need to take them through life and to find success. But they're losing sight of the value of the deep dive to really learn and understand a topic so that you could speak about it with some intelligence and to analyze it, to expand and grow. They're just not interested in that because the world has shifted to reward them for very little effort.
Well, I think I'm going to sound like I'm 180 years old, but I think society's values have changed. We've become far more focused on the capitalist dream, making money and having the trappings that prove we have the money. And people no longer seem, I'm generalizing, people no longer seem in any way interested in pursuing anything beyond going to work to make money and in your free time playing with your toys. There just doesn't seem to be depth. Do I sound like I'm 180 years old?
No, you sound like someone who knows the value of intellectual pursuits, and I admire that.
Oh, thank you. I wonder how many people can say they got a posthumous compliment from Robin Williams. I'm going to wear that with the badge of honor.
Yeah.
So he played Fagin in Oliver. I love it. I didn't know he could sing. I didn't know you could sing.
I don't think I've ever heard him sing.
Well, Fagin is not exactly, Pavarotti, but it's a great role. I can imagine. And he just loved it. He did really well in it. And did you know, Robin, that your professor, whatever class that was where you put on the production of Oliver, your professor said that you were going to be something special someday?
So, did you know about that your professor had such confidence in your abilities? No, it wasn't told to him. It was told to others at the school, so they knew about it. They knew he had potential, but they felt that it might spoil him if they told him.
Give him a big head. Yeah, they were talking about you behind your back. So with good reason, he got accepted to Juilliard. He was one of a class of 20. And out of that class of 20, 2 people got put in this special program they had. Like, they always have accelerated programs in fancy schools. So he got put in the John Houseman advanced program for the freshmen coming in. And it was him, and it was he, and it was Christopher Reeves. So can you talk about that? Were you surprised?
Yeah, so were you surprised when you got chosen for that special honor? Shocked the shit out of me.
So talk about Christopher Reeves.
Okay, tell us about Christopher. He was a genius and an awful fine human being. What happened to him was a tragedy. We were great friends, lifetime friends, there for each other, always.
What struck me about him was he had every reason in the world to kind of go into kind of hibernation, depression, and just go out of the public eye. And he had the strength of character to take what could have been nothing but a tragedy and use it for the better good. I just always admired that so much about him. What was it about his character that gave him the strength to do that, do you think?
So what would you say about that? What gave him that strength to get through? Well, to be honest, in the beginning, he didn't have the strength. He was going to give up. But his wife stepped in and helped him to see that there was still a life they could have together, and she was not going to allow him to give up on them. And then he came around to her way of thinking, and he was ultimately glad that he did. He stopped focusing on all of the things that were wrong in his life, and he looked for where he could step up and make a difference. And that, for him, made all the difference. Helping other people always lifts you up.
That answer, gave me chills, because I've always had a gut feeling that Dana was like this karmic connection that he had, and that their relationship was intended for that moment. Because look what happened to her. He died.
Yeah.
And within a year or so, she died. And of what? Lung cancer? What was she, in her 30s? I
don't remember. Yeah, young.
Young. Yeah. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, that if ever there was a karmic relationship, that was it. And I'm wondering, does Robin know? Can you expound on that?
Yeah, so could you talk about that, the relationship with Christopher and his wife? And why do you think she went so quickly after him? He says he doesn't think it was originally intended that way, but in the caring for Christopher, she lost herself. She was so deeply into being his life force that she forgot about herself. So when he was gone, she was unmoored. There was nothing left for her because she had, what's the word? She'd neglected it. It hadn't been nurtured. And it was like a flower that withered and died when it had no more sunshine.
That's an interesting perspective, because I looked at it as, yes, she died because he did, but it was more just out of missing him. And you're saying it was because she had failed to kind of nurture her own life force.
Yeah, well, the way he's describing it, that's not a desirable thing. You can give yourself and you can help this other person, but that's letting go of your own life purpose, sacrificing yourself for this other person. So now he's gone, and what is she going to do?
Yeah.
There was no sustenance to keep her going.
It's very sad. It's really sad. Yeah. Well, on that happy note, he had other people in his class at Juilliard. I mean, imagine going to school with Robin Williams, Christopher Reeves, William Hurt, Mandy Patinkin, and then this guy that I had to look up, Franklin Seals. Does that name ring a bell?
No.
You'd probably recognize him if you saw him. He was like a character actor. And he always worked. He was always busy. But he was one of those people that kind of got lost in the roles. Yeah. But imagine, what is that? 6 people out of 20 that became super famous and talented. Imagine the grade point average in that class. The curve was steep. What was it like being in class with all those people?
Yeah. So what was that like for you, Robin? They were wonderful people. I admire them for their abilities, but you have to remember they weren't the well-known entities that they are now. It was very different. And there was more of a comradeship and support for one another because we had common goals. All in all, it was a wonderful incubator to be a part of.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about their stardom. I was thinking about the raw talent, all that talent in one place. It's pretty astounding. Christopher Reeves once said something about Robin, that he had all this energy. It was like an untied balloon that was inflated and then you let go of it, that he had just so much energy. He'd never seen so much energy in one person. And it made me wonder, he said that he took on comedy to stave off the loneliness, but that kind of hyperkinetic energy, did it possibly have a little bit of something going on biochemically in his life that made him kind of frenetic at times?
So what would you say about that, Robin? Well, it's well known that I was involved in substance abuse at different times in my life. But no, I wouldn't say that that was the source of that frenetic energy. That's the way I was able to pour it out. Because when the creativity came, it came in these big rushes. And when it came out of me, it was perceived as being frenetic. But really, it was quite organized and almost symphonic in my mind as it was coming out. So there's kind of a juxtaposition there for what he thought it was and felt it was to what we perceived.
Yeah, I knew about the chemicals. I knew about that, but I was thinking more in terms of maybe having some sort of manic thing going on occasionally. But it sounds almost as though he had this unbridled creative energy that just took over. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Yeah, totally hilarious. Oh, I want to talk about the dialects. I love people who can do dialect, who can do accents. And his teacher of accents at Juilliard couldn't, she couldn't deal with it because he could go from one accent to another, to another, to another in a small period of time and do them well. And she said she'd never met anybody who could do that. So my question for him is, was he channeling entities or something? How did he do that?
Oh, great question. So were you channeling to get all of those great dialects that you presented to the world? Well, I don't know that I ever thought of it as channeling. I knew that it was something that interested me, that I put a great deal of time into. I studied, I listened, I perfected, and yeah, a little bit of a perfectionist about that particular aspect of my life. It's something I took a great deal of satisfaction from, getting the precision. That really lit me up.
Mm-hmm. What was his favorite accent to do?
Do you have a favorite accent that you like to do? There are things about each of them that he enjoyed, so not a favorite. He just really enjoyed doing them. And it's
See, I want to.
like he became a different person with each one. So he says, yeah, that way it kind of was channeling, I suppose.
Yeah. So I have a question. It's just a pet peeve of mine because I'm Irish. I have people frequently will comment on my videos and say, "You're not Irish. You don't have an accent." Well, that's very true. I don't most of the time. When I hang around my family in Ireland, I pick it up. And my husband accuses me all the time of pronouncing certain words wrong because, there's a right way, the American way, right? But there's nothing worse in my opinion. I want his take on this. I'm building up to the question. There is nothing more irritating to me than a fake Irish accent. And an Irish accent, although there are a number of different Irish accents, but that's getting too subtle, right? It is the worst accent for people to do. People cannot seem to do it properly. The best person I ever heard who was American, who did an Irish accent in acting, was Angelica Houston. When she did The Dubliners, do you remember that movie, the James Joyce short stories? She played a really important role in The Dubliners. It was based on a book. The reason she did so well is she was raised in Ireland. Her father, John Houston, he
Houston.
bought a big old pile of a house in the country in Ireland, and as a child, she was raised in Ireland. That's why she can do an Irish accent. I was raised around an Irish accent. I had an Irish accent as a child, and I can't fake it. Can't fake it. So let me ask him, can he do a good Irish accent? I'm not going to ask, you to do that. Can he do a good Irish accent? Did he find it difficult? And is he as repulsed by a fake Irish accent as I am?
Okay, Robin, you heard all that. So what do you say? Well, I believe my Irish accent was acceptable. It could have always been better. And because I'm a student of accents, yes, it hurts my ears when someone gets it wrong. But that goes for other accents as well, not just Irish. There are a lot of them that are bad. You're simply sensitive to Irish because you know what the real one sounds like. Most people don't know the real accent of various areas. So, yeah, there's
Right.
a lot of bad ones out there.
Right. Well, I feel it genetically. I think I feel it in my DNA. When I'm offended by it, it's on a genetic level. But it's like when you're learning a foreign language and you're trying to get the accent correct, just speaking the foreign language, it's really hard. So faking English with a foreign accent is just as hard. But we have these foolish notions of what it's supposed to sound like. I'm stuck on one of my pet topics. Sorry.
Oh, so he says it's hard for most people, but I had an ear for it and it was easy for me.
Oh, well, excuse me. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we already asked that question. We already asked that question. Oh, I don't know if he wants to name names. This might be too sensitive, but far be it from me to be diplomatic. He made a comment about reflecting on his youth in the 70s in the comedy clubs. And he made a comment. Somebody asked him about the happiness of the young people doing the comedy at the time and the substance abuse that was going on. And Robin said, I saw the best brains of my time turn to mush. Is there anybody he could point to? It would have to be somebody who was dead, I suppose. Can he point to anybody that comes to mind when he said that?
I didn't get the quote. What was the quote again?
I saw some of the best brains of my time turn to mush.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So could you talk about that, Robin? There's a great deal of pressure in the comedy world, and many turn to various substances to bolster their confidence to help them get through, just like others turn to alcohol. And that's a shame because it dulls their senses and they become less entertaining than they could have been otherwise. When they're just trying to cover up their fear, it's a short-term solution for long-time trade-off, not worth it. And I was guilty of it myself, so I'm not judging them, but that's what's happening. And I found it tragic that so many brilliant careers were short-circuited, never saw their potential because of that fear.
Well, it's my opinion that overcoming an addiction, overcoming that kind of attachment is more than just physical. There's a whole spiritual level to it. And it's a lesson, one of life's lessons that in this lifetime, a soul may choose. And I think that he managed to do that. At the end of his life, there were issues, but that was all derived from a physical condition. Yeah. But he managed to overcome something that many, many people succumb to young. So it's a matter of pride, but it's also a spiritual accomplishment, because attachment to the physical is something we're supposed to overcome on this planet. Listen to me. Okay. I wanted to ask about David Letterman. David Letterman, I don't know if he shared this with Robin, but when he first met him, they were doing stand-up and they would encounter each other, at these clubs and shows. And David Letterman later said that he watched Robin Williams and he thought to himself, well, there go my chances in show business. He was really, really impressed. Did Robin know that?
So, Robin, did you know how much Letterman admired you and looked up to you? I didn't focus on that because I didn't want to get a big head. And honestly, I had my own insecurities. But I'm pleased to know that he enjoyed my work.
I thought it was a hilarious comment for him to make, just
Yeah.
like, oh, well, better give up while I'm ahead. So,
Well, very different styles.
Oh, I know. I mean, it's silly. Yeah. But it just shows you that's his humor. I loved it. It's hilarious. So he had all these successes, Mork and Mindy and Popeye and merchandising success. What else did he do? Oh, he got on the cover of Time magazine and the cover of Rolling Stone. I mean, his career exploded. And then he had a series of HBO specials. He won a Grammy for Best Comedy Album. But what I wanted to know was this weird thing where he was in all these performances with other actors, and they were scripted, pre-planned performances, except because of his abilities, they didn't really write him a script. He just improvised everything. How on earth did he do that?
Like Good Morning Vietnam. That was the one that really stuck out.
Yeah, well, he did that. He did that for everything he was on. The TV show Mork and Mindy, they didn't really write much for him. He just had a general sense of what direction they wanted the plot to go. So can you talk about that?
Yeah. So tell us about that, Robin. How was that for you? Where did you come up with all of that material? Well, I suppose now I understand I was channeling it. I would just tap into an idea, and like a butterfly, it would flit around and I would follow it where it went. And I didn't worry about it in the moment, whether it was perfect, whether it was appropriate. I just followed it. I shared it. And soon that became my pattern. And then it expanded. So that was my metamorphosis, you might say.
One of the best New Year's Eves I ever spent was with Robin Williams. I'll tell you how that happened. We did not own a TV set. So this would have been mid-'80s. And we would, videos, VCRs had just been invented. So we would about once or twice a year, we would rent a TV set. We bought a VCR. They weren't expensive. And we didn't want to be dominated by a screen all the time. So once or twice a year, we'd buy a TV set and we'd catch up on all the movies, that we had missed. But because of our geography, we were able to tune into one or two channels, television channels. And I don't remember if I saw him on a TV show or if we rented a video of a special. I just don't remember. But I got to watch him performing a whole hour and a half show on stage live in San Francisco. And the only thing I remember about the look of the whole thing is he had rainbow suspenders on his pants. Mm-hmm. That just stuck in my memory. I have never laughed so hard in my life. And I hate New Year's Eve. That was the best New Year's Eve I ever had in my life. I personally want to thank him for that.
Yeah. You're welcome. He enjoyed it.
It was so fabulous.
You need to, if you haven't seen it, Watch him on the Actors Studio. He was a guest on the Actors Studio, and he went in front of the audience and he borrowed a pink shawl from this lady, and he did all these characters out of that shawl.
Oh my
Did
God.
it in different ways, and the whole show. I mean, usually it's talking back and forth with the host. The host barely said anything because he just took off on this rampage. It is hysterical.
So is that like a what is that? Is it a TV series or
it was a special on Bravo. It was a series. So this host, James Lipton, that was his name. I was not remembering his name. James Lipton worked at the Actors Studio, so he taught, and he would bring these famous people in to speak to his students. And that's all it was. They came in, he interviewed them. He ended every interview with these special questions that was inspired by this French guy. I forget what it was now, but deep questions.
Oh, like maybe Voltaire or somebody like that. You mean
it started with a P, like Poivet or something like that.
Pascal?
Not Pascal.
No.
If you see it, you'll hear it because he says it every time. But it's wonderful. And the one with Robin, I think it was 2 hours. It was nothing compares to that.
Do you know, is it on YouTube? Is it streaming somewhere?
I'm sure it is because it's classic now.
I have to look it up. Yeah. And I have to look up that movie that you mentioned.
What Dreams May Come.
Right. Yeah. I'll recognize it when I see the name of it. Okay. So he did all these movies. He did The World According to Garp, one of my favorite books. That is such a good book. Great movie. He co-hosted the Oscars. I wonder does he remember who the other host was? Co-host?
Well, I remember it was Billy Crystal and Whoopi Goldberg, the three of them together.
Oh, okay. I didn't have a TV. I didn't see it.
You should watch that because that was amazing.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine. It must have driven all the big egos in the audience insane because they
were besties, the three of them.
Hilarious.
And when Billy and Whoopi came together after Robin was gone, I mean, breaking down in tears.
I can't.
It was deep.
I can't. That was just so sad. What did he think about the special? He made a special with Carol Burnett and Rob Reiner and Whoopi Goldberg. But what did he think of Carol Burnett?
Oh. Tell us about Carol Burnett. The woman's a genius. I love her. Can't get enough of her. It was an honor to work with her and one of my aspirations as a young man.
One of my favorite things Carol Burnett did with Tim, what was his name? Tim Conway and Harvey Korman is when they did the British royal family. Oh my God. So funny. So hilarious. Okay, so we did Good Morning Vietnam, got an Oscar. I'm going to share my joke with Robin Williams. Okay, so I was taking notes on this the other night. And in 1988, he was in an off-Broadway play with Steve Martin. Love Steve Martin. Called Waiting for Godot.
Oh.
I hate that play. And I wrote in parentheses because I often annotate the margins of my notes here that I'm not supposed to say out loud. I said it should be renamed Dying of Boredom. Or maybe Nuanced to Death. What did he think of doing that play?
So tell us about that play. What'd you think about it? Well, obviously my opinion differs from Helen or I wouldn't have watched.
That's okay. My grandmother used to say there's no accounting for taste.
He said it was a change of pace. So he enjoyed it for that reason because it was a different way of expressing his creativity. And he was very conscious of being typecast. He wanted to show the range. So things like Dead Poets Society, Good Will Hunting, he really appreciated doing those kinds because he got to show the range.
So, speaking of diversity and breadth, listen to this. Mrs. Doubtfire, Patch Adams, Dead Poets Society, he got nominated for. Good Will Hunting, he got an Academy Award for. Awakenings, Peter Pan, The Fisher King, he got nominated again. The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. And then, of course, he did the genie in Aladdin. Later on, we're going to mention one of his movies that I loved. Was almost my favorite movie that he made, but we'll get to it. So he did the genie in Aladdin, which was brilliant. And I hate Disney. But he didn't want Disney. He didn't want to do it. He refused at first because he didn't want Disney to merchandise it to death, to use his voice to sell merchandise. And I'm just curious why. Well, I mean, I understand on one level, but why was that a particular annoyance for him?
Yeah, so talk about that. What was it about it that bothered you? And then you decided to do it anyway. I didn't want to contribute to the materialism.
Wow.
It really bothered me. What we're doing is art, and they're doing merchandising, and I didn't feel the two came together. I wanted it to be a higher ideal, so I found a way of incorporating that, delivering the message that was meaningful to me, and we found a compromise position so that it was valuable for me to do it, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, he improvised 30 hours of tape for the movie, and it was the highest grossing movie of 1992. He got a special Golden Globe for vocal work. And it was named in 2009, he was named a Disney legend. So I feel like that when they started to do the sequel, he refused to be Aladdin because they lied to him. They had contractually told him they would not merchandise the genie, and then they did. So he just refused to do the sequel, which and the head of Disney apologized publicly, and so he agreed to do the second sequel. But I have a question for him. I'm sure he's aware of what's going on these days. What does he think of Disney and CBS and all these big corporations capitulating and handing over their freedom of speech? What does he think of that?
Anathema. It's despicable. They've given up all of their honor. They've dishonored the entire history of the good that they brought to the world, besmirched it. It's tragic.
In a perverse way, I'm happy to hear him say that, because that tells me something about him, and it validates how I feel, how my friends feel, so yeah. I appreciate him saying that, and I thank him for that, because too few people are willing to speak out like that. It is really tragic. What's the guy that got fired and then rehired back, the comedian, the late night guy?
Jon
Jimmy Kimmel.
Stewart?
Jimmy Kimmel. I'm sure he heard about that. I read something really interesting today. Jimmy Kimmel is on hold again, suspension again, and no one's saying why. They're claiming it's a family issue. His wife just came out and said in quite a bit of detail what has happened to her family as a result of the ideological differences in the country right now. And I'm wondering what Robin thinks is the job of the comedian at a time like this.
Okay, so that's a great question, Robin. What do you say about that? Well, the job of the comedian is to deliver their best work. But that is determined by their character. What is it they wish to bring to the world? Some are just having fun and entertaining without any depth. Then you have another group that use their voices for the greater good, to speak to the times where the needs are, using their entertainment to craft a message of social importance. So those are two classes of comedians.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones who are using their voices for the greater good have my respect. I admire what they're doing because it's not always easy. There's a lot of pressure to go along, get along, and jobs are not plentiful. They can have their livelihood taken away in an instant. The chopping block is always there, and they're aware of it. But the ones with the character who stand up, they're the ones I admire.
I don't watch evening, nighttime, late night guy shows like that at all, really. But I know who they are, and I have seen some of each of them in their very pointed political commentary, and I give them so much credit. What it reminds me of is like Lenny Bruce or George Carlin, somebody who is able to couch a message in humor, but not lose the edge of the message. What does, I admit ignorance as far as any kind of political things that he might have incorporated into his performances, but he started out in political science. What does he think that he would be doing today if he were on the stage today?
So what do you think you'd be talking about today? Pretty much what I always talked about, but at a higher level, because things have intensified. There are more voices needed to speak truth to power, to help people open their eyes, to awaken. And this is where the comedians could step up and make a real difference, to help people see things from a different perspective and have their awakenings.
Yeah, I agree. So now we're at the movie that I just loved this movie. And I barely remember what it was about. I saw it so long ago. Moscow on the Hudson. Did you ever see that movie?
I don't think I've seen the whole thing. I've seen clips, but I don't know anything about it.
I think he plays an immigrant. And that's all I remember. I just remember loving his role in that movie and just blown away by it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so tell us about Moscow on the Hudson. It was a political statement. I was proud of that work. Very much referencing the Cold War, bringing awareness in an insidious way so that people wouldn't suspect what you were doing. And I was proud to do that work.
I love that movie. I think it doesn't get the credit it deserves. But see, that's the kind of movie I like. I like a movie. I don't like movies where cars crash and things blow up. I don't like that. I like movies where you make a point, and there's some real acting going on. Really like that. So then now this explains things to me. I didn't know that he and Billy Crystal were best friends, In 1997, they did a cameo together on the TV show Friends. So perhaps Robin could explain to me the allure of that show Friends. I never got it.
Yeah.
We're too old. That's what that is.
I don't know. So what would you say to that, Robin? What was the allure of Friends? It was generational, Helen, so give yourself a break.
Okay. All right. I used to have this argument with my children all the time. Okay, so he did a number of different shows. I was especially taken by one more movie that I just loved. It's based on a book, and a lot of people didn't know that this book or that it was connected to something else that's well known. So he made the movie 1 Hour Photo. Did you ever see that?
Creepy.
Based on the book The Red Dragon. And The Red Dragon is based on it's part of a trilogy. The second in the trilogy is The Silence of the Lambs.
Oh.
And the third is Hannibal or whatever, The Red Dragon, if I remember, is the guy in the pit. I think it's another criminal that Hannibal eventually, helps them to find. But it's a guy that works in a photo development place. They had all these families being murdered, families with young children, and they couldn't connect them. They could not figure out what they obviously done by the same person. And I'm going to spoil this, but the movie's been out for a very long time. So,
yeah.
So turns out Robin Williams plays this kind of milquetoast guy who works in a photo developing place. But in the book and in the movie, he was looking at the pictures he was developing, and that's how he selected his victims. And it was happy families. He would see these pictures of family celebrations and stuff, and he would focus in on a family. How did it feel to do that kind of a role? A big departure.
So what do you have to say about that, Robin? He relished that opportunity to play against type, to bring forward something very different. And he enjoyed the reaction of the people because they weren't used to seeing him as something evil.
Mm-hmm. It was really good. It was really a good movie.
It was.
How did you feel when they told you weren't English, so you can't be in Harry Potter?
What do you have to say about that, Robin? Their loss.
I would add they need to get over themselves, but okay. You did a Saturday Night Live skit with Robert De Niro. What was that like?
So what was that like with De Niro? It was a lot of fun. I have great respect for Bob.
Well, I think I should say this now since we've talked for a while. They've done studies and they've proven that sense of humor is directly proportional to IQ. And you're welcome. And I think Robert De Niro strikes me as a really smart person, and he has a really good sense of humor. What do you think about the comments he's been making, the political comments? He's quite brazen about it. I love it. Oh, is it
That's
clapping?
what he thinks of. Applause. Yes.
Oh, it's so good. And did you see the movie? I can't believe I'm asking Robin Williams this, but Robert De Niro made a movie that came out a couple of years ago, and it was kind of an independent movie, not well known. And I wish I could remember the name of it. He played a real life person who was kind of a reactionary guy in the 50s. Hang on a second. I will be able to find out what the name of the movie is, because there was an actress in the movie that I thought, oh God, what a terrible, terrible actress. I didn't recognize this person. And then I found out afterwards who it was, and I was absolutely horrified. Amsterdam. The name of the movie is Amsterdam. Is Robin familiar with that? Okay. The actress in the movie, God Help Us All, was Taylor Swift. Oh. And it was absolutely terrible. Robert De Niro plays the part of a guy who was like a military political guy. Gilbert Dillenbeck. And Dillenbeck was famous in the 50s for his political positions. And Robert De Niro played his role and made a speech at the end of the movie when they were closing the movie out. They played side by side, De Niro and the newsreel of the real guy making the speech. It was uncanny. It was really uncanny.
Well, remember, De Niro was in Awakenings. He was the patient.
I saw that movie.
Oh, you've got to see Awakenings. It's brilliant.
What's it
Brilliant.
about?
It's Robin Williams plays this doctor. He's working with patients in institution, and they have these people that they're like frozen people
Oh,
for
I
years
have
and
seen it.
years.
I
Yeah.
have seen it. Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
was
They
De
have.
Niro was the patient he worked with. It was a brilliant performance.
I don't remember. What year was that? That was in
Long
the
time ago.
early 2000s. I had children. My head was, every time you have a child, you lose a lobe of your brain, which explains a lot. So his last movie, which I thought kind of creepy coincidence, was called The Angriest Man in Brooklyn. Did you see that? It was about a man diagnosed with a terminal illness. That was his last movie. So one of the things now we've kind of looked at his career. I want to go back and talk about his personal life. So he lived with Elaine Boozler. Do you know who she is? She's a comedian. Yeah. I didn't know that. That surprised me.
I didn't either.
Then he got married to somebody completely different. And I would like to ask him, was that sudden and unexpected?
So tell us about the marriage. To switch from Elaine to your wife, what was that about? Because of the way he did his comedy, he just immersed himself in it. He needed somebody who grounded him. That's what she was about. She grounded him.
Elaine or the wife?
The wife.
Yeah, because Elaine is a comedian too, and I can't imagine two comedians on his level. Yeah. And they had a son named Zach, and I just want to say that I have read a lot of things that Zach has said, and he is a credit to his father. He seems like a remarkable young man. Really a great kid, a great person. You did a good job with the child.
Thank you.
He got divorced and then he got married, and it was one I remember this so well. Wasn't this around the time that John Belushi died? Am I wrong about that?
When he got remarried?
After yeah.
Can you tell us about that? Was it around the time of Belushi's death that you got divorced and remarried? Yes.
Okay. I remember there was a big article about it in Rolling Stone. And Robin was partying with John Belushi the night before John Belushi died. And I know this is not a matter for joking, but he said one of the funniest things I've ever heard about going into rehab. He's at partying with John Belushi, and John Belushi dies, and it's a gigantic shock, and it really kind of cleaned up his act. But let me find the quote because it was just so funny. Oh, here we go. Partying too much. Belushi dies. He said that happened right around the same time as his son's birth. So it was 83, actually. It was a little earlier than I thought. My daughter's the same age. Interesting. Anyway, Belushi dies. His son is born, and it sort of sobered him up, got him on the right path. And his comment was, the grand jury helped. There was an inquest into John Belushi's death, and it scared the liver out of him. Did he want to comment about that? I know it's not a laughing matter, but the funniest comment, the grand jury helped. He took up cycling, and cycling, he said, saved his life.
He had to focus his energy somewhere else. That was important. He had just so much energy. So can you talk about that? When Belushi died, it was a come to Jesus moment.
Yeah.
Because it was then I realized I had a lot more I wanted to do with my life. And I had this baby who
Yeah.
was depending on me. So it was a do or die moment. Change
Yeah.
your world or lose your life.
So eventually he got divorced and then he got remarried. And when he married, his new wife was 6 months pregnant when they got married. And I remember it being just this hot gossip because she had been his nanny.
Mm-hmm.
And so people like to make, implications and all that. But he said they didn't have a relationship until after he was separated from his wife. That just wasn't what happened. No judgment. I don't care. Does he want to clear the air?
Okay. So do you want to share with us about that? Well, maybe I was hedging a little when I said it didn't start sooner because there had been an attraction. We had talked. There was emotional flirting going on, but nothing physical until after.
They had a son and then they had a daughter. I mean, no, they had a daughter and then they had a son. And they did end up getting divorced eventually. And he married a woman named Susan Schneider, which he stayed with for the rest of his life. But he got divorced for what was called irreconcilable differences. And the question that came to mind when I read that was, were you a little hard to live with?
Well, yes. Not
Who
everybody can
isn't?
handle that kind of frenetic energy. It's like having lightning strikes on a regular basis.
They lived, his final wife lived in a place called Seacliff in San Francisco. Is Seacliff a neighborhood or in the name of the house?
So, neighborhood or house? Neighborhood.
This is a quote. My children give me a great sense of wonder just to see them develop into these extraordinary human beings. And I got to thinking about it and I thought, a parent who is privileged with, resources, who has his values in the right place and really loves his children is in a great position to provide them with experiences and experiences that they ordinary people maybe not be able to access. And I was just wondering, what kind of things did he do with his kids to enrich their life? Because I just know he did.
So, what do you say about that? I spent time with them. I listened to them. I deeply listened to them. And that's the most important gift you can give your children. Of course, we played games. We had outside activities. We cycled. We enjoyed traveling. But the most important thing I gave to them was my time in listening.
That's really profound because an awful lot of people from any echelon never understand that. It's really profound. And it obviously had an effect because they are remarkable adults. So
Yeah.
So I have to tell Robin this. I quite frankly didn't know all that much about his life. So when I was researching this, I was really impressed by some things. First of all, he had a favorite book. I mean, come on. He was asked later in life, who his favorite author was, and he said Isaac Asimov. But then he was asked what his favorite book was, and I was excited to hear that he had a favorite book. I was a question I was going to ask, and then they asked it in this other interview. But then I was disappointed by the book.
Aw.
I know. He said his favorite book was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I'm just curious.
That makes sense.
Narnia, it does to you?
Yeah.
I
Magic.
didn't like those books.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Escapism and magic.
Yeah. So is that why he liked it?
He had that childlike sense of adventure and seeing the magic, the joy, the wonder, the delight in life. he sought that out because he didn't have it inside. He didn't get that nurturing.
Yeah. What's the guy's name? The author oh my God. I'm losing my mind here. The Narnia books. He became very Catholic. And that may have been what I didn't like about him. I hold a grudge. His name is on the tip of my tongue. You know how that happens when you get old and you can never remember anything? C.S. Lewis. He wrote a number of kind of philosophical books too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think I was put off by that. Was Robin attracted to the books for the philosophical content, or was it just the imagination?
So what do you say about that? What was the big draw? He liked the contrast between the depth and the magic because that made it special. That took it to an extra level, and it was deeply satisfying. He was always looking for the treasure, and that was the treasure. And then you take what you've learned, you apply it to your life, and you use it in a way that enriches your life and others.
So bicycling was, really important to him. And he followed the Tour de France around, went to the Tour de France. And so could he speak French?
Did you speak French? Not truly. He had the phrases, he could do the imitation, but he was not fluent.
Well, I bet they really appreciated that. The French are quite particular about how you speak their language. Yeah, that's really funny. I have a neighbor who's from France, and he's a young guy, and I drive him crazy because I spew my terrible French at him. And his wife is American, and I can see her dying 1,000 deaths, and he's just getting more and more irritated as I mispronounce every single syllable. It's hilarious. It's delicious. Okay. He donated in 1987, he donated 87 bikes to the Chris and Dana Reeves Foundation. And he claimed that he was kind of Episcopalian, which I love his description. Catholic light, half the religion, half the guilt. Love it. Love it.
That is great.
Yeah. And also an honorary Jew. Now, why an honorary Jew? Did you have Jewish heritage in your background? Because I could almost see it,
I didn't get the question.
Why an honorary Jew? Was there Jewish background in his heritage?
Oh, so for you, Robin, was there Jewish background? No, but he felt an affinity for the comedy. And he was sure that he was a Jew in a past life because he just felt it.
Me too. Did he have a lot of Jewish friends?
Did you have a lot of Jewish friends? Well, Hollywood, of course.
Oh yeah, duh. Wait till I tell you. I live in a small town, and it's very white bread, and there are very few people that are not white fundamentalists. Just the way it is. That's not why we moved here. Believe me. And when my kids were growing up, I did a Girl Scout troop because we homeschooled and they needed to have friends. And I did a Girl Scout troop. And I was the Girl Scout troop leader it was like the misfit troop, kids that didn't fit in anywhere else. I had a mixed age, and I had the little girl who was adopted from a foreign country orphanage. And I had another young girl from a huge, gigantic family with all kinds of issues. And I had in my troop a couple of sisters who were part of one of the very few, and I mean handful of Jewish families in town. And they became, these kids all became best friends with my children their whole entire life. And still, keep in touch, and I run into them and stuff. But little girls who were Jewish were the two younger daughters of a later in life marriage, a remarriage. So they had older siblings, half siblings, who were already adults before they were even born. And when the older girl had her bat mitzvah, she invited us to it. And imagine how I felt when I walked into the reception, only to discover that her oldest brother was one of the top executives at See's Candy. And the entire room, there were huge bowls of See's Candy everywhere. I felt like I had died and gone to heaven. It was unbelievable. And I got introduced to some traditional Jewish food, and that alone would have been what I would have expected him to have said for the food. Okay, so the single most significant thing that I learned reading about Robin Williams was his social conscience, his generosity, his philanthropy, his care for other people. And the question I asked was, where did he get his compassion? Talk about his religious beliefs and his sense of service to others.
So talk about that for us, Robin. Where did that service to others come from? He felt deeply connected to Jesus, and he was following his example as he was taught to do. And as far as he was concerned, that's the only way to be. He doesn't understand people who do something else.
What was his... Okay, so I don't know how to ask this question without sounding really insulting. Was he like a strictly you have to be a Christian and follow Jesus kind of person? Or did he take the message of the Sermon on the Mount to heart and include under that umbrella anyone who obeyed those sorts of beliefs that Jesus taught? Does that make sense?
Okay, so what do you have to say about that, Robin? He followed Jesus the peacenik, and that was the philosophy he espoused. Has nothing to do with the strict doctrine that many, quote, religions are teaching.
Well, that's all Old Testament, and Jesus wasn't alive in the Old Testament. He's talking about hippie Jesus. He's not talking about annoying John Wayne Jesus.
The loving Jesus.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I hear him entirely. He traveled to 13 different countries to entertain the USO. He started a foundation with his last wife, Susan, called the Windfall Foundation. And I actually wrote down here, he performed a song in French, and that's kind of why I was wondering, could he speak French? He donated, he did that world tour, that he did. He donated money to rebuild the city of Christchurch in New Zealand when it was leveled by the earthquake. He happened to be in that area of the world touring, and he donated all the proceeds, to rebuild the city. So sad to say that towards the end of his life, he started struggling with alcohol. But it seems to me, and I'm making an assumption here, but it seems to me that what he was really struggling with were the symptoms of what was going on in his brain.
Yeah.
I don't know what to ask about this. First of all, he had an aortic valve replacement. That must have been scary, huh?
He had a bowel replacement?
Aortic valve.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Sorry, my ears are not great right now.
I don't know which would be
valve.
worse.
Yeah. So, what was that like, the aortic valve replacement? It was scary, but I had a peace about it because I knew that if it was my time, it was my time. So I'd either live or die.
How did he know he had a problem with his valve? Because he was, pretty athletic.
Yeah. So how did you know about this? Like most people, it was found in a routine physical. And then once we knew about it and put focus on it, learned the extent of it, it was clear that surgery was the best option.
Yeah. So we're approaching the time when he really went downhill. He got really sick, and he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, but it was a misdiagnosis. And he started having symptoms. They didn't realize that's what was going on. You know, he was having severe depressions and anxiety and a fear. So I imagine we're talking panic attacks, because that's what it sounds like to me. But mostly like memory loss, and he couldn't sleep, and lack of sleep causes delusions, and he was having that. But all of these were not mental illness in and of itself. They were the symptoms of what was going on in his brain. I don't know what question to ask. Can he talk about that at all?
Yeah, okay. So would you talk about what was going on with all those symptoms? A real battle going on inside of himself, because some days he wondered if he was losing his mind. Maybe he had pushed the line too far with his comedy, and he'd gone over a cliff and he'd never come back. So a lot of doubt, a lot of anxiety, uncertainty. It was hell, not knowing whether he'd be normal ever again, just living one day at a time. And it was crazy making.
Yeah. I'll say this. We can't use the word here on YouTube because we're grown-ups and we can't say the word. Apparently other people can't handle hearing it. But at the end of his life, I always felt like he had a moment of clarity and realized that this was not going to get better. And perhaps was thinking of his family, and also thinking of relinquishing yourself to that loss of yourself. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, so could you talk about what was going through your head at the end? Each day seemed worse than the last. I could see the strain that it was putting on my family. It was ending my career, which had been a big part of who I was.
Yeah.
And suddenly I looked around and felt, I've lived my life. I've done a lot of good, screwed up a lot, but mostly it was a good life. And why not go out on a high note?
So it was a conscious decision. It wasn't the side effect of a loss of control or.
Yeah. No, I'm feeling it was a clear choice.
A clear choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, boy, I totally understand it. I think that might be the big fear of a lot of people is to lose who you are. I think a lot of people can relate to that. Well, I don't know. I wonder, like a final question, looking back on this life that you've had, you brought so much happiness to people, you know, and you made a lot of profound movies, and you wrestled with your own demons. And I'm wondering if you can talk about the purpose of this life as Robin Williams, and like what you learned, or what the purpose was for your being here.
So talk about purpose. What can you tell us about that? The purpose is to live full out, to find the gusto and the exuberance in life. And I did that. So from that perspective, I consider it a success. Sure, there could have been more. There could always be more. But I did what I came here to do. and I can leave with a clear conscience.
Oh, I would say so. Accomplished a lot more than most of us ever will in 20 lifetimes. Just want to say thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I have some questions.
Oh, you have questions. You never have questions.
Yes.
Okay.
Now for Robin, I have questions. So it's been said that in his contracts for movies, there's a clause that they must hire homeless people for every movie. Consciously social activist, right? I didn't know if that was true, so I asked him. He said it was true. And then I was curious, did that come after or during Fisher King, because that was about homelessness and mental illness? And yes, that was something he took away from that experience that inspired him to do that. And I don't know if you're aware, but with Christopher Reeve, he ran into financial trouble after his accident. Robin came in and paid it all. That's how close they were.
No, I did not know that. Am I surprised? No. I was shocked when I first started reading about him because I had a superficial familiarity with his career. And that's it. I just didn't follow him, and I was really struck by his compassion and his sense of social responsibility. In the movie where he felt the need to hire the homeless, were they extras? They just were homeless people in the movie? Or?
They would hire them for all kinds of things, whatever. They could be extras. Maybe they helped with other things, but they had to hire a certain number of homeless people.
Wow.
So,
and he helped pay for Christopher Reeve's treatment?
Yeah, when their money ran out, because that was very expensive.
Oh, yeah.
So he stepped in. He covered it all.
Wow. I have a question. Do you have another question?
No, but I want to say something after that. So go ahead.
Okay. I have a question just occurred to me. I hesitate to use this word out loud. I'm always in trouble. But maybe he'll get the hint. Our recent unfortunate medical experience globally that started in 2020, early 2020. What was the purpose for that? I have my opinion. I'm just curious to see what he thinks.
So what do you have to say about that? Do you know what the purpose of it was? Can you enlighten us? It was to awaken humanity to how disconnected they've become from one another, that they need to care for their fellow human beings, to bring more love and light back into the world. You've become so disconnected that you've lost, in many cases, the ability to understand the value of being your brother's keeper.
So was it effective? Did we learn?
Do you think we learned?
On an individual basis?
Some did.
Some did. I agree.
It's a start.
My theory about it, and this is hard to talk about because this almost seems to be dismissive or to negate the terrible impact and the tragedy of it. And I'm compartmentalizing that for the moment because I do think it was presented as an opportunity for those who chose to take it to stop and to look inward, to be introspective, to reevaluate, to realign their values, which is in keeping with what he was saying. I completely agree with that. And I think a lot of us didn't take as much advantage of it as we should have or could have. And I'm not sure the lesson lingered. I worry about that.
He's saying, yes, it was quickly eclipsed, but the seeds were planted. Don't underestimate the power of seeds.
So does he have any final words of advice for how to negotiate our present dystopian situation. This is very difficult. I'm sure, he knows that, and probably has a much more clear-eyed idea of what we're going through than we do. So what can we do? What's his advice?
So what do you have to say about that, Robin? There could be no better example than that of Jesus. Love them.
Okay, but in theory, yes. But what does that mean for ordinary people who are scraping to get by and, watching what's going on, feeling powerless really to do anything about it? A lot of us don't have position or authority or the physicality or the money or the opportunity to do what we feel would be a significant action to make a difference. What can we do?
So he's saying, don't underestimate the value and the power of small acts. Each one doing the small acts they feel led to do are making ripples in the pond. When enough of you do that, you'll create a tsunami that will transform the world. So it's about understanding that we're not powerless, even though we sometimes feel we are. No matter how disadvantaged, you still have power to make choices that can change the world. And now he's reminding me the story in the Bible of the woman in the church who just had one coin.
The widow's mite. That's one of my favorite stories, one of my favorite parables. The widow's mite. The mite was like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a shekel. It was almost valueless, and it's all she had left. And she gave it to the charity, in the temple. And somebody was denigrating it. Oh, well, what did she do? Big deal, no big deal for her to give that away. And the message was, the person who gives the last of what they have is the one who gives the most significantly. People like, I don't know, Bill Gates, for example, could give and give and give and never feel the pain, right?
Exactly.
And I'm so happy.
That's how he lived his life. So did you ever see Godspell, the musical?
I had the album. I was a Catholic girl raised in the late 60s and early 70s. Godspell was our bread and butter. Come on.
So the connection that I got during this conversation, the Jesus that was presented in Godspell, that's who Robin was in life.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. And my mind immediately goes to. In fact, when I talked about this earlier, I thought Godspell. Isn't that funny? The rainbow suspenders.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what he did on stage. He brought that character.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm slow.
Yeah, so, the clues were there, but you didn't know it. When he died, I look back at pictures of him and I saw the sadness in his eyes that I had never seen before. It was always there, but we didn't see it because he distracted us with the comedy. But he was always sad.
Okay, well, nevertheless, it was really fun to read about him and to connect with him. I really appreciate it. Thank him for me. Yeah, really appreciate it. Thank you for making my one good New Year's Eve.
Yeah. He was delighted to talk to us. We can call him anytime.
Oh, well, now he might regret making that offer because we'll be back. We will be back.
He feels good about still being able to make a difference.
Yeah, he left a real heritage, a legacy of work. Yeah. I know I'm going to go watch one of his movies tonight.
Yeah. And, you were talking about his children and what good people they are. He planted those seeds.
I know he did. Yeah. Yeah.
Bearing
It's
fruit.
rare to see somebody of his prominence and wealth and attention that he got, to have his values in the right place. It's remarkable because it's so scarce. You just don't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something to be proud of. All right. Well, thank him. I don't want to keep him hanging. And this was fun. Didn't you feel good about it?
It was deep. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily expect somebody with his persona to be as intensely thoughtful. Very thoughtful.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. When I read the list of charities that he worked with, I thought, okay, this is going to be interesting. Yeah, this is going to be more to this than meets the eye. Well, our job here is done. Thank you, Deborah. It was really fun.
It was. Thanks for asking me.
Who else could I ask?
Many people.
No. It was really fun. I really appreciate you. You do a great job.
Yeah.
And we'll be back. I'm already thinking of who to do next.
Awesome.
I have 2 names. See if you can guess. That's the problem with having psychic friends. I have all these friends that I can't finish a sentence. I can't surprise them with something. I'll go to call them and they're calling me. And it's like, come on, you guys. That's pretty funny. All right. I love you. I'm grateful. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And stay tuned. We'll be back. Slongafoil.
Yes. Bye.